Welcome to Death and Aliens, in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney,
And I'm MK.
and how's it going?
So it's been a week. Um, well, last week I was supposed to go to the theater to see A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond story. And I don't know if you have seen that show yet,
I have not.
or
I've tried to see it 3 times, and then every time it did not work out.
oh, I like Neil Diamond, but I'm not like a huge Neil Diamond fan.
Me either. It was just happenstance that I was supposed to see it
Yeah.
each of those times, and then it did not work out.
Um, and Tuesday night after work, Dan and I are like making dinner, but his knee was like acting up really badly. And he's sitting in the living room and he's like, "Hey, would you hate me if I asked you to get my food for me? Like make me a plate instead of like getting up and like feeding myself like an adult because it irks me when people like are like waiting on having their partner wait on them." And he knows that. So he was like, "Would you hate me like if I asked you?" And I was like, "No, it's fine. Like once in a while, like I can get your plate for you. I don't mind it. It's just like this can't be our lives."
Right.
Um, and I was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine." I go, "Would you hate me if I said, I don't really want to go to the show tonight?" And he goes, "No, like, but like, you want to see it, like, it'll be like whatever." And I was like, "Listen, we're both exhausted. We're both burnt out. I think the idea of putting real pants back on after these sweatpants would kill me. And your knees are already not doing well. And our seats at the theater are very tight for leg space." I was like, "You're not going to be able to sit for 3 hours with your knee against that seat." And he was like, "No, you're right. It would hurt a lot, but like I would have done it like for you." And I go, "Listen, I'm gonna go to work on Friday. I'm gonna see the show. If the show is so amazing that I can't believe that I didn't take you, you'll come to work with me on Saturday." Like that's where I'm at right now. So I skipped the show. And then I went to work Friday and it was fine. Like it was good. They did a
That's
really
like
good job. It was talented. Everyone was very kind and everyone was very talented. Since neither of us are like diehard Neil Diamond fans, it was fine. We were cool. We didn't need to see it. I don't feel like I missed anything. But I did have a friend in the show who he's a friend, as in he's been to Shays a bunch of times with different touring companies, and we have talked. But he just helped produce the newest show that opened on Broadway, which I don't know if you realized, but I did not realize that Jason Robert Brown's The Last 5 Years never played on Broadway. The original cast recording with Sherry Renee Scott and Norbert Leo Butz is from an off-Broadway. It never
I
had a
think I
Broadway.
knew that, but I don't know the show very well.
Oh,
I'm not. I'm
it
just
is
familiar with it by title. So
it
but
is
I don't.
my favorite show. It is my favorite show, and I did not realize that I've seen it a million times in different productions of it. I sobbed my way through the Jeremy Jordan Anna Kendrick movie. Like it is my favorite show.
I haven't watched the movie either.
When I for my vocal performance for my final for my voice class in college, I sang a song from that show and made my voice teacher cry. Like it is my favorite show. And so it just opened on Broadway for the first time last weekend. And my friend Dimitri is one of the producers, and he was like, he's so happy and it's going so well. But Nick Jonas is in it. And I'm like,
It's oh why yeah
I
yeah.
like really want to go to New York right now. Like it's been a while since I've been like, I need to get back to New York, but I really want to go to New York right
Well, I saw that is it Leslie Odom Jr. is joining Hamilton again in
now.
September
Yes.
for like 3 months.
Well, and when I'm in London, so when I go to London this summer, we are going to see a show. And I was torn between two. Did I tell you that I was torn between two shows when I was going to London? So I was torn between two shows to get tickets for. One was a play and one was a musical. The play was Giant, which is about the era of the 80s after Roald Dahl posted some really anti-Semitic stuff and like said some awful things, and it kind of came out that he's not really the best person, and which is really upsetting.
It is
But
very upsetting, but also, I mean, not surprising.
yeah, but John Lithgow plays Roald Dahl. in this performance. I ended up not choosing that one because I was just afraid that it was going to be really heavy for me and not right for the honeymoon, because I was going to then spend the rest of the time we were on the honeymoon thinking about it and on all of the implications of it. And instead I got tickets to Hercules, which I'm very excited.
I've only heard good things about it. I've not seen
all of the things. Obviously, it didn't. Its off-Broadway like trial did not do well in the States.
I know.
I do not know why. But everything I've heard from the West End cast, like clips and stuff online, they sound amazing. I can't wait. But then I got real bummed that I didn't buy tickets for the Giant because the Oliviers were last week, and John Lithgow won the Olivier for the show, and the Giant won for best new play, like for best play, and I was like, if I would have bought tickets before the Oliviers, they would not have been as expensive, and then I would have been going to see it post Oliviers. But I didn't, and I'm perfectly happy to see Hercules. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. Scar on Broadway from The Lion King, the guy who's currently Scar on Broadway, just left The Lion King because he is going to be Hades in the West End cast.
Ooh.
And so I'm very excited. It's going to be lovely. I'm very excited. But yeah, the last 5 years is like the first time that I'm like, damn, I wish I still had a reason to go to New York all the time.
I know. Same. I keep getting like my Today Takes and Hip Takes emails and stuff, and I'm like, I gotta unsubscribe because it just makes me depressed all the time.
It hurts my feelings every time. But then also today, I watched on accident. Dan and I just like turned off the thing we were watching, and it went to the live TV on our Samsung TV, and so we watched the Good Morning America special coverage of the space flight
With Katy Perry?
With Katy Perry and Gayle King going to space for 11 minutes. I have so many feelings that I think we need to do a special edition of the podcast just to talk about my feelings about space. Because like I have feelings, and most of them are not positive.
Yeah, I had that same feeling. I did too. I saw something. I knew I'd heard about it happening, but I didn't realize when it was happening until either yesterday or the day before. I saw something and I was like, oh, that's like tomorrow.
Yeah.
That they're doing
but
that.
Then I also like did a bunch of research, and like this is like the 9th or 10th flight that they've done like this. It's just that this one was a big deal because it was the first all-female.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have, so like the one positive thing I will say is that Jeff Bezos himself was like, it's his company, and obviously, or whatever, and
his wife
and his wife,
fiance
or whatever was on it, but he personally came and opened the shuttle, like, and made sure that they were all safe when they landed and whatever. And like, I gotta say that did give him a point in the kudos column for me, just for like being hands-on. And I'm pretty sure I then read that he was there for all 9, like obviously the one he was on the ship, he didn't open the shuttle, but all 9 other launches he's been there at the thing, making sure that they're safe personally. And I like that does give him some points in the kudos column. Like, it still doesn't take away the fact that Amazon criminally overcharges small businesses, and tech tycoons are slowly killing everyone on the planet, but he does get some points that others for showing that he like will put the work in himself if he has to.
I think I'm just too jaded with media because I'm like, it's PR. His PR guy was like, go do this and people are gonna like you better.
Maybe, and that's probably a big part of it. But like, based on the interviews about how much he like loves space and did this not because it was gonna make him money, but because he fucking loves space, like I just genuinely feel like he's like a kid in a candy store who's like, did you like it? Did you like it? Did you like it? Did you like it? So I don't know, but yeah. So I did not see A Beautiful Noise. But I did watch a space shuttle launch.
Good Morning America.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Those are equal.
How are you?
Well, speaking of theater, we have 2 shows left in our season because I can't afford Hamilton. And so The Wiz is coming up in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to go see that because that was like my top on my list this season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that and Beetlejuice, and I saw Beetlejuice, so now The Wiz is left. And then Chicago is in June, which is also pretty high on my season because I've never seen it live.
Okay.
I've never seen the movie. I've never done it because I want to watch the stage show so bad.
Yeah.
And so I have those are our two shows left, and they're both on my list. The problem is that Rachel is due at the end of May, right in the middle of all these shows, and so I don't know who's gonna go with me. And I mean, I guess I could go by myself. I just hate driving downtown by myself because it's a
Yeah.
nightmare. So I need to find another available friend because like I could go with Kirsten, but she works nights now. So
God,
I know
Kristen.
she's ruining my life. We tell her that frequently. She loves it. So I'd love to go see, I really want to go see The Wiz and I really want to go see Chicago. And I might would go by myself if I have to.
I think for those two, like if it was something else, maybe not, but for those two and how long you've wanted
Yeah.
to see the two of them, you might have to.
Like I wanted to see Anne Juliet again, but I have already seen it. So like I
Yeah.
didn't worry about it. And like Hamilton, I really wanted to see, but by the time like I started looking at tickets and I knew it was the weekend of the baby shower, so I was like, I'm not gonna be able to go anyways. Like,
Yeah.
and so like Hamilton was kind of a lost cause from the beginning. But like other than that, those were the two I wanted to see left.
Yeah.
The Wiz being number one. But so hopefully I can go see those before that while they're here. But on a similar note, I finally watched Wicked. Um,
I still haven't watched the movie.
it's here's my non-spoilery take. Um, I really loved it. I thought Cynthia Erivo did an amazing job. I thought Ari did fine. I would have cast someone different, but had it not been like a thought about casting, I would have been like, oh, she's great. Like I would
Yeah.
because she did a good job.
Yeah.
I really liked it and I kept putting it off because I was like, I want it to be like a to-do. I want to watch it like an experience. I don't
Yeah.
want to just
Well,
pull it up on a
so
Tuesday night.
so my brother and sister-in-law, like George and Renee went and saw it in the theater like 5 times when it came out. Renee was
Yeah.
obsessed. She like called me and told me everything was amazing. Um, I have heard that Ari really put in the work to vocally train herself to do it, and that it's a
Oh,
very,
vocally she was amazing.
that it's
Incredible.
a very different Ari than you would expect if you didn't
Mhm.
know. Um, I have a problem where I am a little bit of a misanthrope.
Mhm.
And when people like things, it makes me not want to watch them.
So I do too. That's why it took me 6 years to
Yeah.
read Twilight. Because I
Yeah.
just couldn't do it. But so I also was like, I really want it to be a to-do. I was like, but I don't want to just, I was like, but I'm putting too much behind everyone's obsessed with it that I don't want to watch it. So my mom, after the baby shower Saturday, we were like flipping through the streaming services. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't seen this yet. Wicked. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what it's about? She's like, no. I'm like, did you read the books? She's like, no. I'm like, do you want to watch this? And she's like, yeah, I heard it was really good. I was like, okay.
My problem
Fine.
is the number of people who watched it and posted about it online and who made it their personality, who had neither read the book or seen the stage show.
Yeah,
It really turned me off from the whole
I
experience.
know. Me
It
too.
really, really
Yeah.
did.
And I think that's one of the reasons I would have recast someone instead of Ari because I've seen the stage shows and it's not that and maybe it's the character and maybe it's not her. Maybe they've just I don't know. There's just something about the way that she plays Glinda that I just don't feel is quite spot on. And I can't even tell you what it is because she does the like bouncy, she does the like I'm better than everyone, she does the popular thing. Like she does the stuff correctly on paper.
Yeah. Well,
And so
honestly, I feel
what
like I'm
it
the
is.
only person in the entire world who does not like the way that they reorchestrated Defying Gravity. Hate it. Hate it.
Oh, I liked it in the movie. The movie
Oh,
one.
yeah, I don't like
I'm fine
it.
with it.
I
I'm fine
also
with it.
hate what they changed in Dancing with Life. I hate it.
I hated Dancing Through Life.
I
Yeah.
hate it.
That one wasn't great.
And I'm like, everyone's talking about these things like they're so great, and everybody loves that moment, the it's me moment in Defying Gravity. And I'm like, I have a lot of
I liked it well enough.
so
But I did hate Dancing Through Life. I did not care for that. I zoned out while they did that one because it just took
which
so
is
long to the movie.
it's one of my favorite scenes. It's one
Mm.
of my favorite songs. It's so good. It's so lyrically genius. in a way that
Yeah.
nobody's paying attention to.
Mhm.
And a part of movie spectacle means that they definitely went too hard on the spectacle and took,
Yeah.
and that is just,
For sure.
oh, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm going to be the only person in the world who hates it when I watch
I
it.
don't think you're gonna hate it. I don't think you're gonna
Okay.
hate it. I think you're gonna have some critiques.
Okay.
I did say at the end, I asked mom, I was like, okay, do you know what she is? Again, no idea.
Yeah.
No sense. She did like it though. I was just like, great. Now you can go read all the books and we'll watch the second part when it comes out. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, there's three. I think I didn't realize there were four books. Has
There's
the
four
fourth
books.
book always been out?
Yes. The fourth
I've
book.
only read three books.
The fourth book came out in 2015.
Okay, I may have read them before that. So I may have read them before there
I
was a fourth
think.
book
Hold
and
on.
just
When did
didn't
when
realize.
did the fourth book come out? I remember getting the fourth book
Let's
as
see.
soon as it came out. But also I read the first book when I was way too young to read it.
I read I don't know.
Oh no,
Wait,
Out of Oz
is
came
there
out
a
in
fifth one?
No, Son of a Witch came out. So Wicked came out in 95. The musical came out in 2003. Son of a Witch came out in 2005. Lion Among Men came out in 2008. Out of Oz came out in 2011.
I feel like it must have been out there and I just didn't know it existed because I for sure have not read the fourth one.
No, yeah, I have.
But
Well,
I
you know
did
what?
read the other three.
I own the fourth one. I definitely own the fourth one. Now I'm
Yeah.
doubting if I read it.
There's another book that he continued the story of the fifth book, The Brides of Maricor, and it's going to be another three-book series called Another Day. Do you know
That
anything about this?
is, I believe that is a tangential thing. I don't think it's actually
And then we have the prequel, which I did know because that just came out
which that I
like
don't
last
even,
month. It's called Elfie. It literally came out last month.
it is what?
Have you not heard about this?
Okay. Oh, yeah, it just came out. Yeah. I have
Mhm.
not.
I have
Um,
obviously not read that. I have not been in, but I want to go reread all the books before the second part comes out. Obviously, we don't have like
yeah, The Brides of Maricor, though, is part of the world of Oz. I don't think it's part of the Elphaba story.
I mean, she looks green.
Oh, it's because it's a different character.
Oh, it's Elphaba's
Granddaughter.
granddaughter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I see.
Yeah, so I mean, so it is, like I said, it's tangentially related
Yeah,
because it is the same
because it's not like the
universe.
stepsisters book or whatever. He's done some of the other ones.
Yeah, no, so it is in the same universe, but it's not the same series, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I need to go on a Gregory Maguire read. I want to reread the Wicked series, and I haven't read any of his other books. I've only read the
I
three
really need
Wicked.
to. Now that I know that there's four more Wicked books that I didn't know existed, I need to reread the whole series because I read the original four.
I read the original three. And I thought I read them after high school, but I must not have if the fourth one came out in 2011 and I didn't know it
Well, that's
existed.
why I'm like doubting myself because I read the first three for sure.
Yeah,
I
same.
distinctly remember buying the fourth one. It was because it came out in 2011, which would have been my sophomore year in high school or in college. So I think I got it it came out in November 2011. I think I got it for Christmas that year because obviously my mom knows I love those books. I wanted to read the book. But then I'm thinking of like what my spring semester of college, because that would have been the first Christmas that I went to the Dominican with Brent. I'm thinking of what college looked like after that and the amount of reading I was doing for my classes. I can't honestly say I ever actually finished reading it.
Let's do a friend read and we'll reread
So
the whole series.
we're gonna have to reread the whole Wicked series because I can't just like pick up on the fourth
Right,
book when I read the
exactly.
first three 2 decades ago.
Same. Join our Death and Aliens book club, and we're gonna read the Wicked series, and that's it.
And that's it.
Don't come back for more.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I am trying to get Courtney to read the Avatar series. I'm throwing up that series.
Look,
and eventually Courtney's
I read
gonna
a
get me to
chapter.
read. Eventually Courtney's gonna get me to read Butcher and Blackbird. So
Yeah, mine's a lot faster.
That's true.
Mine is a lot faster to read than yours is.
That's true. But
Mine's not a world. It's a short, dark romance trilogy. Yours is like an entire universe built on top of a different universe. Like,
yeah.
anyways, so before I get too
Yeah, I was
existential
like
about these
before we
worlds,
spend the entire podcast talking about books
I
instead
know
of
we'll talk about a different book. But you tell me nice things about words.
okay. I changed the page. Didn't mean to do that. Here we go. Fresh starts. Thanks to the calendar, they happen every year. Just set your watch to January. Our reward for surviving the holiday season is a new year. Bringing on the great tradition of New Year's resolutions. Put your past behind you and start over. It's hard to resist the chance at a new beginning, a chance to put the problems of last year to bed.
So can I just reset my watch now? She says it like you can just reset
Right,
the
like you can
page.
just pick up on January.
Right.
Um,
I would like that.
no,
Cool.
yeah,
Perfect.
clean slate.
Clean
But also,
slate.
like, what is a year? What is a day? What is a calendar? Fuck it. Let's just do a clean slate every day.
Yeah, but it's just the oh, I can't think what I was trying to say. It's a quote from an author. Forgotten it. Basically the existential dread of day-to-day life. Um, but as opposed to existential dread, today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic films of our lifetime, and really anyone's lifetime. Um,
It
we
came out
weren't born
before
when
we
it came
were
out.
born.
But it's our lifetime. It's still one of the most iconic films of our lifetime.
No, that's fair. I just like the way you were like our
Yeah.
lifetime, and I was like, no, for sure, it came out before we were born.
Yes, it did. But like a year, not like a ton.
No, I know.
Because it aired on February 14th of 1991. This is one of my favorite things, is when a horror film comes out on Valentine's
I
Day.
know.
Nothing brings me more joy. And so this is how
Unless it's
you
a
do
really
it.
shitty one, like that one Valentine's Day horror movie that came out on Valentine's Day a couple years ago that was
Ugh,
just
yeah.
absolutely terrible.
And if it's like fun bad, like you can give me a fun bad movie on Valentine's Day, that's fine. But if you give me like
Yeah.
a bad movie, I have some things I'd like to
Yeah.
talk to you about. It was rated 8.6 out of 10, which is a little low for how iconic this movie is, I think. I don't know that I'd rate it higher, but I'm just saying I was
You're like,
surprised.
yeah, I was like, yes, but also valid.
Yeah. The number one song is
I
Gonna
wonder,
Make You Sweat.
I wonder how much the ratings have changed from 1991 to now. Like how many new
Not a
people.
lot. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
like, it's pretty consistently been
Okay, because I was gonna
well
say,
regarded.
no. I mean, but like, have they gone down? Like when it first came out, was it like
Hmm.
higher, and then as people have rated it, like as in the last 30 years, did it slightly skew it downward?
I didn't see a lot of lower reviews when I was
Okay,
looking at it.
that's fair.
But I mean, I'm
No,
sure there's something that has come along the
right,
way.
cool. Because I just think about the fact that like if I were to rate The Exorcist, I would not rate it the way it was rated in the 70s because
Right.
it's not I can't ever view something the way someone in the 70s would because they don't have that experience.
Mhm.
Um
And like, there's
1990
definitely some issues with this film that would be addressed today that wouldn't have been addressed in 91, which we'll talk about once we start discussing,
yeah,
obviously.
there's some
Um,
things that I was like, oh,
yeah. But I think for the most part, like, and especially when it comes to like critics, it's still critically acclaimed. That
yeah,
hasn't really changed. So like while user ratings may have changed here and there, I don't think critic ratings really have. Um,
that's fair.
so the number one song is Gonna Make You Sweat, which is just tells us what a time we're in. The number one movie is Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
And the number one book is Cold Fire by Dean Koontz. On this day, the Langston Hughes and Zora Hurston show Muleborn opened on Broadway at the Ethel Barrymore Theater. Um, Carol G was born. She is um, I don't remember what her nationality is, but she's a rapper or singer. They called her a singer-songwriter, but I'm pretty sure she's a rapper.
Mhm.
Um, And this is also the day that Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid got married. So if this doesn't just put you right back in the time of when this movie came out,
Are
this
Meg
is
Ryan
your
and Dennis
time.
Quaid still married?
I think so.
I think so.
Let's
I could
see.
be wrong.
I could also. Um, nope, they cut divorce in 2001. She is currently not remarried. Maybe he got remarried because I feel like he's talked about a wife. Yeah, he's been married twice since then.
Oh.
He's been married 4 times. So he was married once before her, and then he was married to her. They were only married for 10 years. And then he married Kimberly Buffington, and then in 2020 he married Laura Savoy.
Mm.
Savoy.
Yeah.
Mm. She is 34 years old, and he is not.
Not 34 years old because he got
Yep.
married. Because
He
he
is
got married.
71.
He got married the second time 34 years ago. So
Yup. Well, that's that. Our director is Jonathan Demme, who did pass away in 2017. So he was around from February 2000, oh no, 1944 to April of 2017. He is known for Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, Rachel Getting Married, and Adaptation. And I have not seen the movie Rachel Getting Married,
me
but
either.
since the beginning of time, we have talked about how Rachel and Anne Hathaway are the same. And so I feel like it stars Anne Hathaway, and I feel like I should see this movie because it is about someone named Rachel who is played by Anne Hathaway.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
so I'm sure it's terrible. I am not a big Anne Hathaway fan. Other people seem to be. She's fine. I don't think against her, but
Um,
she's very hit or miss for me.
listen, Ella Enchanted and The Princess Diaries, top tier films.
Sure, yes, yes.
Devil Wears Prada, good. Not because of her though.
Right. I haven't watched Les Mis. Did you like her in that?
No.
Okay.
But to be fair, my opinions on Les Mis are objectively garbage because my favorite part of that movie was Russell Crowe, who was objectively the worst part of the movie. So like, don't ask me my opinions on Les Mis. I'm objectively lying. Like it's garbage. Uh, yeah, I can't think of anything that I liked her in other than when she was a teenager.
Yep, yep.
Oops.
So I mean, this did come out in 2008, so like she
Yeah.
was younger, so maybe we'd like it.
Was this the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? Or no, that was Love and Other
Mhm.
Drugs. That was
Which also wasn't a great movie.
I never watched it.
I watched it around the time it came out. Let's see. Who was in this movie? 2008. Where did it go? What did I just tell you the name of this movie was?
Rachel Getting
something.
Married. I do not know a single other person that is in this movie.
I know Rosemary DeWitt.
Oh,
She didn't even play Rachel.
No.
She didn't even play Rachel. I don't even watch this movie anymore.
No. Sebastian Stan and Annaleigh Ashford are in it, though. I love them.
Yeah, but you know they're not big parts.
Oh, for sure not.
Annaleigh Ashford is in the new Happy Face TV show on Peacock. That's a dramatization of Happy Face Killer.
Oh.
It's her and Dennis Quaid, and she is killing it.
Oh, I love her.
That is another tangent for me to go on another day that I was going to go on today, and then we started talking about Broadway, and I didn't. We'll talk about it next week. He was voted the 45th greatest director of all time by Entertainment Weekly. He has 2 films that entered into the Library of Congress. This one, and then one from 1984 called Stop Making Sense.
Never heard of it.
I haven't either, but I guess we should check it out.
Probably.
I rate it. I shouldn't talk. This is why we need a break between episodes. Our writer is Ted Talley. He's known for this.
Yeah.
All the Pretty Horses, Mission to Mars, and Red Dragon. So we've already spoken about him because he did also write Red Dragon. Our editor is Craig McKay, and he is known for this Philadelphia Reds and Sin Nombre. Didn't really have a lot of information on him. That's just who he is. So I only have a couple of people to talk about that we haven't talked about before.
Okay.
Obviously Jodie Foster. She plays Clarice Starling, and she is known for this movie, Taxi Driver, The Brave One, and The Accused. None of these have I seen other than Silence of the Lambs, but I've seen her in plenty of other. I loved her in Flight Plan. I liked her in Panic Room.
I am not a big Jodie Foster fan. I just
That's
don't. I just she's never like I understand that she is a good actress, but
mhm,
she's never really done anything that made me as nearly as excited about her as the majority of like critics seem to be.
mhm.
But also, I think part of that is skewed by the fact that when I think of Jodie Foster, only think of one thing, and that is John Hinckley Jr.
Is what?
John Hinckley Jr.
Oh, yeah, that's on my list. It's on my list.
That's
We're not there.
should be
We're not to
like,
trivia yet. TBD.
but I'm like, that's literally the only thing I ever associate with Jodie Foster.
That's what they're. Let me know if you can hear them. I can hear
I
them.
can't
I
hear
don't
them. I
think
just hear
can.
you
Okay.
whispering about them.
Okay. That's okay. Most recently, she has been on True Detective since 2024.
Okay.
I still haven't watched that show, and everyone
Me
tells me I love
either.
it. One day.
I feel like it's exactly the show we should be watching, and we're just
Right.
not.
And we just haven't. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So when she was a child, she was attacked and carried away by a lion while filming Napoleon and Samantha, which is a
Amazing.
Disney movie that I'd never heard of. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so she's fine now, obviously. She's she's fluent. She was fluent in French by 14 and fluent in Italian by 18. So she's just like world traveler. She has all of
Yeah.
her own French dubbing.
Yeah, and she's I mean she's wicked smart. Like that's
Yeah,
not a question.
yeah. She got this role after Michelle Pfeiffer turned it down.
Thank God.
Um,
I mean, I don't get me
I
wrong, I
know,
love Michelle Pfeiffer, but
but not in this role.
no.
Yeah. Um, she is the producer of Freaky Friday after playing the original daughter in Freaky Friday.
Oh,
And
that's
they
right. She was in
mhm.
the original one.
And they really tried to get her to play the mom in the 2003 one, and she refused because she said it would be basically too much overlap. And she said, we can't do this. So she refused, which is the best decision.
Yes,
Jamie Lee
correct.
Curtis, my God, of
Yeah.
course. Could you imagine Jodie Foster playing that role? No,
No.
0%. Um, and of course, she is known for John Hinckley Jr., who was stalking her through college and attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan because he said it was for her. He
Yes.
did shoot him, but he did not die.
And then Stephen Sondheim wrote one of my favorite musicals of all time called Assassins, that is just about all of the history of all of the presidential assassins and assassination attempts in the country. And the character of John Hinckley Jr. sings a love ballad to Jodie Foster. That is one of my favorite songs ever. And
Which is a show that I still haven't seen.
oh my God, I'm
And I
obsessed with
want
it.
to.
Obsessed with it. Part of it's always been one of my favorite songs, but then also Nick played John Hinckley Jr. in the last production of it that I saw. So of course that crossed some weird wires in my brain.
Sure. Sure,
but
why wouldn't it?
but I mean I'm a big Ronald Reagan girl. And so obviously like I've always known about John Hinckley Jr., but then the crossover between politics and true crime and musicals, it just that is a figure in history that is weirdly imprinted in my brain in a way that is not healthy.
I'm a big Sondheim girly, so I would
Yeah.
love that. I want to see it so bad. I
Oh
want
my
it to
God.
come off Broadway somewhere here.
I want to
I need to
just
keep up with our off Broadway like with our like local theaters better
I
than
just
I
want to
do.
like do it. Like I want to do a one-man show of it and do every role, which is actually physically impossible, but like it's fine.
Well, one of my friends that I work with does local theater here, and let's say Kidder. I can't ever remember which community theater he's with. And they're doing he's doing a new show, a brand new show that I don't know what it's called because it's brand new. And then they're also doing the um what's the Shakespeare show that's funny. That's not,
Oh, something wrong.
yeah, they're also doing something wrong.
Oh,
And so I keep being like, I need to go talk to him and be like, I need you to like hunt down all the community theaters for me and get me on their mailing list so I can keep up with who's doing what. Because so many of them do shows like
yeah.
Assassins or do like all these shows
Yeah.
that are
Listen,
not on Broadway, haven't been for years, or if they ever were.
listen, if you want to understand what local professional theater is and how to be overwhelmed by local professional theater, move to Buffalo because
Well, we have a lot of community theaters. We only have like a couple of like local professional theaters. But I love the community theaters too because when they're usually affordable and I think it's funny.
yeah, no,
They're
but
always way lower budget, but it's fun.
we have like levels. We range from community to like
Yeah.
having people from Broadway there, but like we have our local professional theater. There's like 20, 30 local theater
Oh, I think
companies.
we
Like
have one local professional because we have our like national tour theater, which is Sanger. And I think we have like one theater that's like a local professional.
we have theater here. What
Yeah,
did
we
I
don't.
just
We have a couple more that might be
I just got a
professional. I don't know.
notification. So one of the local theaters moved their permanent house into our theater, into the little theater at
Mhm.
Shays. And so they're still their own company, but they're basically like using our space, but they're like paid a lot of money and there's a whole thing about they're like but what show did I just read that oh they're doing Mamma Mia. One of the theaters is doing Mamma Mia, and I don't love Mamma Mia, but the people that they have playing the Donna and the Three and the Dynamos are people that I adore. And the choreographer is someone that I work with that I love. And so I'm like, oh, I might actually have to see that one.
Um, you have to see your Twilight show is coming through.
Yes, Twilight is coming. I have not talked to Dan about that yet.
I feel like you're gonna be there.
It'd be
I always
great.
forget about Jefferson Performing Arts Society. I think that one's professional. Anyways, so next up we have Scott Glenn who plays Jack Crawford. So it's like our 75th Jack Crawford we've talked about.
Yep.
He is known for Hunt for Red October, Silverado, and Born Legacy. Most recently, probably most recently that I've seen
Yeah.
is he plays Stick in Daredevil.
Ooh,
And
yes.
so
I
it's a
did
very
see that.
small role, but
Yeah, I
big
did see
character.
that because one of the characters in this movie, I looked at her face and then I immediately go, no. So then I pulled it up after I figured out who she was by looking at her face. And so I did look at some of the cast.
Yeah. He was a reporter in Kenosha for 5 months before getting into acting. He
Right.
also was in the Marine Corps and he wanted to be an author but had problem writing dialogue and so became an actor instead.
Me too. That's why I never write anything. I can't fucking write dialogue. I could write the most beautiful prose. I could write all of the descriptions. I could make the craziest. I could write essays for days. You make two characters have to talk to each other? Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. I cannot write dialogue.
Well, go become an actor. That's the alternative to that.
I've been there, done that, also quit.
The last person I'm going to talk about, I am not talking about Brooke Smith. She is from
Um,
Grey's Anatomy. We do love her. She is not in the top cast, and I can
no,
only
but
think about so many people.
that's why I already
Mhm.
peeked at the category at the
Right.
characters because Brooke Smith, I was like, that's that bitch from Grey's Anatomy that I hate.
Yep. Yep. But I am going to talk about Ted Levine, who plays Buffalo Bill. He is known for this.
Yeah.
Shutter Island, Heat, and The Hills Have Eyes. Um, which I think I've seen all of. I feel like it's rare that I've seen all the things people are known for, but I think I've actually
I
seen all of them.
have seen two of them, which is also more than I
I'm
usually.
only vaguely sure I've seen Heat, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it. Um, and then he had a hard time getting other roles after this one that weren't sadistic psychopaths.
Which I do kind of understand. I feel bad, but I do understand.
Yeah. And then he and Brooke Smith actually became friends throughout this because they spent so much time together.
Right.
And Jodie started calling her Patty Hearst because she says she got Stockholm syndrome from being locked up by him the whole time.
That's funny.
Oh, it was funny. For ratings, we have some pretty decent ratings. It got an 86 under Metascore. Um, it was rated 100 by some top dogs. Variety, San Francisco Chronicle, USA Today, and Rolling Stone all gave it 100.
All
Like
right.
some of the
Not,
biggest
yeah,
ones.
that's some big names there.
Yeah, I just wrote no big deal after no big deal. The lowest score is apparently famously the Chicago Tribune. It gave it a 50. And apparently the guy who was working on it, I can't remember his name. It was like Sickle or Siskel or something. He was just so anti this film. And he was so anti-horror that it didn't really matter how good it was. He was
Mm,
gonna like rate it down every time. And so he was just one of those people.
God bless
Um,
that.
yeah. Roger Ebert, he compared its staying power to like Nosferatu, Psycho, and Halloween, because of how like iconic it is
Yeah,
and its
yeah, and
role,
I would
obviously.
have to agree that
Hmm. It has that same level
yeah,
notoriety.
for sure.
He also, and this was a Roger Ebert,
Yes,
actually.
he was still alive.
He was still up for this. He also mentioned the parallels through the themes we have between Hannibal and Clarice, how they both grew up in like abusive situations and they had like hard lives and they were getting to the points of like where they were like working with people's minds. And so he talked through the parallels of the two characters.
Oh, you
And
mean
then
what we could have done with Will and Hannibal
yeah,
and the
yeah, yeah,
TV show.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's fine.
Um,
It's I'm fine.
and he also compared Hannibal and Buffalo Bill in the sense of how they were both living in the underworld because you went downstairs to see their like true lives. And now that Hannibal's locked up and Buffalo Bill, and he like visually the comparative elements. Um, and that if you want to read, like he's had some flack over the years, but if you want to read why he was such a good critic, go read his criticism of Silence Land. It is so well written
Oh, I
and
love
just
that.
masterfully done. I cannot obviously read you the whole thing because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so overall, what did you think of this film? We've seen three other films now in a whole series.
I so I think it is difficult to watch something in conjunction with the other pieces. Like watching Silence of the Lambs as a film by itself, incredible film. Watching it as a piece of the Hannibal puzzle, harder to really deal with.
Mhm.
And part of that is that I don't really like Clarice. Find her to be underdeveloped. Like, and it's very interesting to me how iconic she is in media when I don't feel like there's that much to her character.
Yeah.
Um, um, Obviously Anthony Hopkins is phenomenal. Um, Weirdly, I really felt like Chilton in this film and in the TV show are basically the same person. Like
They're the same. Yep.
they're the same person. There was no difference
Mhm.
there. Um, but in general, like as an overall thing, it's a very good film. Like there's no question about that. It is an iconic film for a reason. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know that it ages as well as you want it to.
Yeah.
Partially, and really honestly, a lot of that has to do with the um the dialogue because it was a product of a different time. Um, and by that I mean there's a lot of conversations about transsexuals, which is obviously not a term that we use now. Um, However, I found that the stigma toward them makes sense because of the time in which the film takes place or when was filmed. But I actually really appreciated and understood Hannibal's feelings about it and what he said about Buffalo Bill and the idea that Buffalo Bill is not a transsexual, but he
Right.
hates himself so much that he thinks he must be something else.
Mhm.
And so he tries to be that. And so it wasn't in a way, it was not taking away from the idea of what a trans person experiences, but it was also explaining that when someone feels so othered, they may have no other choice.
Yeah.
Like, and so I actually really liked that. I just didn't like necessarily the way they spoke about it because it was from a different
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's also my take on it, is that I don't think it's necessarily like, especially because it's 1991, it is surprising that it's not as transphobic as you'd imagine.
Yeah, no, I really didn't
It
find that
is
it was.
really the dialogue, and I mean, the dialogue changes over time. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And we learn, we grow, we change. But one of the reasons, after doing a deeper dive into it, that I think it came out that way is because oh my gosh, what is his name? Ted Levine, for researching this part, actually went to trans bars and met with trans people and asked them about their experience and talked with them before the movie ever came out to play this part in a way that wasn't
That wasn't
necessarily
transphobic.
disrespectful to the
Okay.
trans.
Yeah.
And so I think that had a lot to do with the way that it actually came through.
I will
Um,
have to say, I do have to say, in terms of the LGBT community and experiences that you don't have unless you are part of that community.
mhm.
Dan watched parts of the movie with me. He wasn't home when I started watching it. Um, so I had to teach him what tucking was today.
I love that. I love that for him.
Because he goes, what did he cut off his penis? I go, no, no, it's there. It's just
That's not where you think it would be.
it never occurred to me that that was something I was gonna have to educate him.
That's so funny.
But like if that is not a community that you're familiar with,
Right,
that
right.
is not an experience.
It's not a thing you just happen to know
And
out of
and I'm
nowhere.
sure the first time most people like hear about it, it's not by seeing a fully frontally nude man doing it.
True. Yes, yes,
So
correct. Correct. That is really funny.
um
Um, yeah, but yeah, I think overall that they did. I know it's had some slack from the some slack from the trans community, and I appreciate that.
yeah,
I do not want to take away from that by any means.
right.
Um, just looking at it in its time, if you compare it to other things in 1991, I
Right.
do think it is miles above there, even if it doesn't necessarily hold up to today.
And I do understand the idea that like someone experiencing transness as a an escape that isn't what their actual identity
Right.
is could be taken in a way where, oh, you're saying that everyone who's trans just hates themselves and wants to be different,
Right.
which I don't think was what was being said,
Mhm.
but I can understand how that depiction of it would be
Mhm.
harmful. Um,
But I do think that like Hannibal character does explain that, like you were saying, like he explains like this is why he's not trans because this is why he's using it as, which is not really the experience and really not
right. But
what it's
I
about.
also it's one of those things where in life it's such a fine line between who you're offending and who you're not offending and
Mhm.
what you
Right.
how your words affect people and what your intention is not being the
Mhm.
same as what you're saying. And so yeah, like you said, not to take away from their experience, but I did
Right.
not find it to be nearly as offensive as it could have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
no, I think truthfully, my biggest that in my opinion, the biggest flaw in the movie is that Clarice I find to be an underwhelming character.
I also find her underwhelming, which I find surprising because I have watched this movie before. It has been 1,000 years, but I have watched this movie before, and I do remember liking it the last time I watched it. But I I may have been in junior high. Like it's probably been at least 20 years since I
Well,
watched this
and
movie.
I think I don't think it's bad acting. I don't think it is
Right.
bad acting. I think Jodie Foster does wonderful. I think it is a subtle performance, which it has to be. I think if she was too big, it wouldn't work. But I don't like when in comparison to how Will and Hannibal interact, not even just in the TV show, also in the
Right.
other movies. So
And Manhunter, Red Dragon,
not to
yeah.
say that like it's because of Hugh Dancy and Matt Mikkelsen. The interactions between Will and Hannibal are much more cat and mouse. It is much more obvious why Hannibal is attracted to, compelled to, wants to
Mhm.
share things with Will.
Yeah.
Clarice shows up, puts on a front of being strong and badass, immediately crumbles,
Mhm.
panics, and then he still feels the need to share things with her. That feels poorly developed to me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. It
doesn't
didn't have the time for the relationship to develop
I
there.
don't understand what Hannibal sees in Clarice, and I don't think that relationship works unless I understand what Hannibal sees in Clarice.
Mhm.
Like, why did he call her at the end? Why did he make sure that she knew that he was alive? I don't understand his connection to her. And that is not an Anthony Hopkins or a Jodie Foster problem. It is a writing problem. And so I'm curious if the books make it more clear or if she is just a more of a blank slate character.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if because we have the same writer from Red Dragon and we thought Red Dragon had some poor writing that was a little underdeveloped, if
Yeah.
we're having the same issue here with Silence of the Lambs, because Red Dragon versus Manhunter, we decided that we had liked Manhunter better as a story,
Yeah.
even though the production value was a little lower. Um,
Correct.
but
Correct.
we liked the writing style and the development better than in
Yes.
Red Dragon. So I'm wondering if it's just this writer's style is not as well developed as we
And
want,
I
as it should
wonder,
be.
so Silence of the Lambs was not the first movie
It
that came
was it
out.
was Manhunter, then Silence of the Lambs.
Okay. Um, but I think but Manhunter is not the one with Anthony Hopkins, correct?
No, Red Dragon is.
Okay. So I think that this movie became the institution that it is, for a few reasons. One, I think the idea of the character of Hannibal Lecter is compelling.
Mhm.
I think that, um, I think that Anthony Hopkins is phenomenal.
Mhm.
I think that the dialogue in the sense of the one-liners, the creepy things that Hannibal says, eat and Buffalo Bill says, eat into people's mind. I think the portrayal of Buffalo Bill and that type of serial killer is compelling. I think the lead investigator being a young, unassuming woman is compelling.
Right.
However, I don't think that as an actual puzzle, all those puzzle pieces put together, I don't think the final product is as compelling as those individual puzzle pieces should make it.
Right. I definitely agree. And I'm wondering if it's because of, I mean, we're 34 years later watching this
Right.
movie. And in 91, we didn't have some of the same sensationalism we have now and some of the
A
same detective and mysteries we
100%.
have now. We don't have the Sherlocks, we don't have the monks, we don't have,
Well, and
you
I
know,
also, even just to think of psychological thrillers, like I feel like in a world after I have watched Shutter Island for the first time, nothing that is, and not to say that that's the best one, but that's one of the first ones that I watched that really like made me like, oh, in a world where I have watched movies like that, anything that borders on psychological thriller but doesn't leave me questioning things
mhm.
isn't going to rock me the same way.
Well, and also
Like,
you think about what we've had up until now. Like Shutter Island wasn't out. And like
no,
mine first one was Hide and Seek, and it's obviously was not out. It came out '01 or
yeah,
something. But
yeah,
like we had Hitchcock, we had the '70s,
right.
and then we went straight to slashers until
Yes.
now, basically. And so we didn't have psychological horrors or psychological thrillers with more modern technology. Um,
Hmm.
so we didn't have anything really after Hitchcock other than the Halloweens of the world.
Well, and so I just pulled up a list of psychological thrillers from the 80s, just what is predating this.
Mhm.
And really, like, there's a good chunk of them, but like in terms of movies that actually like, um, what's the word?
The like
Um,
longevity.
longevity, movies that people talk about as being good movies. For the entire, I mean, because I mean, Psycho 2 and Psycho 3 both came out in the 80s.
Sure,
That's
but
not what
one,
I'm,
they weren't great,
that's,
but
yeah,
also
that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mhm.
which is partially psychological thriller, but partially slasher.
But leans on slasher,
It
yeah.
lands on slasher. Um, you
Halloween was
have,
1980, I think.
yes, or yeah. Um, was it? Yeah, it might have been. It's not on this list, but because I also don't think that they're counting it as a psychological thriller.
No, because it's a slasher. Sure,
Yeah.
sure, but yeah.
Fatal Attraction.
But that came out as more of a drama, I think, in the end. I think
I
people
think
looked at
so
that as more
too.
of a drama than a thriller.
And the only other one that I think is really worth mentioning is The Shining.
Mm.
But
And
The
The Shining
Shining,
was good, but again, it's more horror than psychological thriller
right, and The
too.
Shining came out in 1980. So if the last truly good psychological thriller came out 11 years before then, and then you fell into this world of the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Halloween movies and the and the 80s were the
All of the
era
80s camp
the 80s were
movies.
the era of horror camp. They were,
Hmm.
and it wasn't even just in film. Think about like the rock bands, the glam metal rock bands, the horror camp, the blood, the guts, the show. That's what the 80s were. And
Hmm.
so having this movie dial everything back down and say, no, we're going to scare the shit out of you with one scene that's bloody.
Yeah. And they really were not gratuitous in their blood either. I mean, you have
No.
the guy strung up, obviously, but
The
like
guy, the guy
even
strung
that
up, but the
was,
guy strung up, but like the only scene that I turned my head was when Hannibal attacked the guards and he bit the guy's face.
yeah.
But we all know,
But I thought they were going to show more than that, and then
I
they
thought they were too.
didn't.
I thought they were too. We all know my immediate gut reaction for anyone
Hmm.
biting someone's face is to turn away because that freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
But then they really didn't show nearly as much as I thought they were going to.
Hmm. Hmm.
And even the guy strung up, there was no blood in that scene.
And it was dark. It wasn't like,
Mhm. So there's one moment, like, sure, there are some things that are a little gross, like when you realize that Buffalo Bill is sewing human skin.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's not horror elements, but compared to the era that existed prior to this movie, what the 10 years before this movie were, the subtlety of this movie was what made it iconic.
Yeah. Hmm. And the acting skills, I mean, because you get in the 80s, the actors were not there for acting. They were there for show.
A
Um,
hundred
and
percent.
so now you are pulling out the Anthony Hopkins, you're pulling out the Ted Levines, and you're pulling out Jodie Foster, who this was
Yeah.
really her big break too, even if it was a little understated as a character.
Yeah,
Like
and like, but like I
they
said, it
did a good
wasn't a her.
job.
I didn't think it was a her problem. Although
Right.
there was one time that I really was like, man, this girl did not get trained to do this movie. And that is the entire time that she's in Buffalo Bill's house. Because
Mm,
I have
yeah.
never, ever seen such poor gun handling in a film in my entire
I
life.
know, bless her heart. And they spent
Like,
time at Quantico training.
right. And here's the thing. Like, I know I have seen people handle guns poorly when their characters handle gun poorly.
Hmm.
But girl, you are an FBI agent in training. You are training at Quantico. You as a human trained at Quantico. What are you doing to that gun?
Yeah, I know. And I feel like
That
she
was,
she missed some of the corners where you're supposed to like never put your back in a certain
which
way.
we
Like
knew that didn't bother me as much because in the training montage scene, they straight up were
she
like,
missed it too,
you
yeah.
missed your corners. But girl,
Yeah, yeah.
that felt like that one felt like a Jodie problem, not a character
I
problem.
know.
Very little of my problems with Clarice were Jodie problems.
Right.
That one was a Jodie problem.
Yeah, no,
Also, I
that's
think I figured out, I realized my settings were set so that I couldn't do the thumbs up. but now I set it
Oh,
so
now
that
you can.
I set it so that I could, but now it doesn't seem to be working. I only remembered that because I put my hand up like this to talk to you, and my thing is now raising my hand.
Ooh,
Oh, I'm asking a question.
I am having a party. I don't know how though.
I don't know.
Um,
Um, but yeah. So I like the movie.
mhm.
But I feel very similar to how I felt after The Exorcist, where I genuinely enjoyed the movie, but I am more underwhelmed than I thought I would be.
Right. And I do think, I mean, this is your first time watching it, right? You haven't seen it
Yes.
before? Okay.
I've
So,
seen like enough pieces of it out of sequence to almost have seen the whole movie.
sure.
But
Yeah,
yes, this is my first time watching it in one sitting.
got it. Yeah. And so like that also has something to do with it. And I know following up Hannibal that we've been watching obviously has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Because you do have and probably starting with Manhunter and Red Dragon has something to do with it because we do have this connection with Will and we do have this understanding, but that's how the books are written. And so that is how everyone is introduced if they read. It's only the people who didn't read the books that were introduced to Clarice first.
Which, and again, I'm not,
Mhm.
I would love to actually read the books that Clarice is
Mhm.
in and see how she's characterized in the
Yeah.
books and see if it is I'm not going to use the TV show as any kind of indication of how I actually feel about the character. I'm pretending that that is not even the same universe.
Mhm. I
But
will say I did a deep dive today on Clarice when I was trying to figure out where we could watch the show.
yeah,
And there were some positive elements. There
okay.
was a lot of bad, but there were some positive too. So
Okay. But in terms of trying to compare it to Thomas Harris's writing, I'm not going to use the
yeah.
TV show. But I would be really curious to see if the book develops her more, because I think in the book you have the
Mhm.
opportunity to develop her more.
Yeah.
Um, I also this was our non-readers introduction to Hannibal Lecter. Like, yes,
Right.
Manhunter came out first, but we both commented on how Manhunter barely had Hannibal Lecter in it. And Manhunter didn't have Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. And the
And it
guy,
didn't have the following in general as a film.
right. This was a much more big budget film, like mainstream media. Anthony Hopkins is a powerhouse. And this was film audience's first foray into that character, who is without question one of the most compelling characters.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I appreciate what the film was. I appreciate a lot of what went into the film. And like I said, I did enjoy it. I feel underwhelmed, but I also like you said, I'm watching it 34 years post. I'm watching it in a much different era of psychological thrillers and what I've been exposed to. I'm watching it in a different setting in terms of character development than the people who would have watched this movie as their first foray into the character. Um, so yeah, so my critiques really do feel more like poor character development, which is a writing problem.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. Well, we pretty naturally went through all of my bullet points for what I wanted to ask about the movie, which was magic.
love when that
So I have
happens.
trivia for you, as you can
Ooh,
imagine,
of
quite a
course.
bit. Um, so in the scene where Hannibal is being transferred and he's wearing all white,
Yeah.
initially they wanted him in like red or something else, and he pushed for the white. He thought it was more subtle. And then way later, after everything had happened and all these interviews were done, he came out and said that he thought it was white because he was scared of dentist and it was it looked more like a dentist than anything else would.
That is amazing.
Isn't it the best?
That is amazing. Also, the fact that Anthony Hopkins is that afraid of the dentist that when he was
I
like,
know.
"What can I do to make Hannibal Lecter the scariest
What's
thing
the
ever?"
scariest
The
thing?
dentist.
I know. Oh,
10 out of
iconic.
10.
Um, one of the things about the way the film was produced, which I appreciate, and I want to go back and rewatch now. I kind of noticed while we are walking through it, but a lot of the film was meant to be point of view Clarice, but obviously it wasn't out of her eyes. But if you watch, you never see her look directly in the camera, whereas you see other people look directly in the camera because you're supposed to only see it from her angle. And so you're seeing straight on every other character at some point, but you never see her straight on because it's supposed to be from her point of view.
They could have been more effective at that.
They could have been more effective in that, and that's why they had. So I noticed while watching it that there were weird camera angles, and I didn't understand why. And I didn't notice characters looking straight on versus not looking straight on, but I did notice every time we saw her, it was like she was almost out of view. And I was like, I don't know why we're watching her from like a diagonal angle as opposed to how we're viewing everyone else.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was a choice.
Yeah.
Because it didn't come off.
It wasn't a strongly executed enough choice to be a choice that added anything to the film.
Mm-hmm. And I always think about stuff like that because I really noticed it in A Quiet Place. Whenever they changed the point of view to when they switched to the child who was deaf, they cut out all sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, that is how you show. Have you seen the first one?
I haven't, but I have heard that is something that happens in it.
I did.
And that's actually very there's effective. Actually, I'm trying to think. There was something else that did stuff with sound like that really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel like we've talked about something else.
We have talked, yeah, it's something that we've talked about recently where they really did the sound as emotion or point of view really well. I can't remember now what it is that we talked about, but
yeah, so I think, and I know this is the 90s. I know that everything's different, that we have better technology now, but now that I've seen the height we can come to, and I've seen point of view camera angles also, and like back to the early aughts, not even like just now,
right?
That when you say that this was your plan, I'm like, I think you missed the mark. Like, I saw weird camera angles, but it didn't have the effect you thought it would have, which is a bummer.
Oh, you know what? This is so weird, and it's because I just listened to another podcast about it. What I'm thinking of that did sound as point of view really, really well. It's the Sandman scene in Bates Motel, and the Sandman with the vents, and when you can hear it and when you can't, and how the vents close. The sound editing on that is a fucking masterpiece.
That was oh God, that was such a good episode.
Yeah.
It made me feel icky.
The Bates Motel podcast that I've been listening to, they just finished season 4, so we're talking a lot about that right now.
Amazing. I love that. So Anthony Hopkins, if you've noticed, is basically unblinking for most of the movie, which is what makes him so unsettling. And he chose to do that because of a friend he had back in London who didn't blink very much, and he found it very unsettling.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The choices he's made.
The number of things in this movie that were his choice because he was like, that's creepy. Like I don't know if this is in your trivia, but I know it's true. I've read interviews with him about the sound he makes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He did it literally just to scare Jodie Foster, and it is quite honestly one of the creepiest things I've ever heard in my life.
And apparently it was also very unsettling to Jonathan Demme, the director, as well, but he pretended like it wasn't unsettling, and then
he was like, "No, that's fine." And then he was like, "No, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my life."
It says to read this screenshot. So when Sir Anthony Hopkins found out he was cast as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, based on his performance as Dr. Frederick Trevis in The Elephant Man, he questioned director Jonathan Demme and said, "But Dr. Trevis was a good man." To which Demme replied, "So is Lecter. He's a good man too, just trapped in an insane mind." I was like, that is such a good description of Hannibal. I was like, right?
But also, if you listen to our podcast from last week where I went off about how Hannibal isn't a bad person, he just had trauma. Like, yeah, I'm with you. I have defended this man more than anyone should defend a sociopath ever.
Absolutely, 100%. Since day one. Since day one.
Day one.
This man.
It's because my husband is a serial killer, so
Right,
I have to.
of course. So when he decides to kill everyone, you're safe.
And he,
Um,
every time we record, he goes, "Did you call me a serial killer again?"
oh, poor Dan. We'll have to have him on one day.
He's the
And then we
best
should just be
person.
really weird about it though.
Yeah.
Like we're held hostages.
He is, it's only funny because he is quite literally the best human in the entire world, and
He would be so uncomfortable.
he is a better person than any of us could ever hope to be. He is like
Right,
truly a good human in a way that like
right.
is borderline questioning why he's with me. He's that good of a person.
Like
So
if you put
that's
the three of us in a room, you'd be like, you two, you're definitely serial
definitely
killers. Not a
definitely
question. You two are definitely doing something wrong. And they're like, this one's fine.
he's
This
the
one's
only one
okay.
who wouldn't be immediately given a
Yeah,
therapist.
they'd be like, we need to protect him from whatever you've got going on.
Yeah.
Poor Dan. Um, Anthony Hopkins thought this was his last of Jeff in Hollywood. He had done films and he was like, I haven't made it yet. If I don't make it in this film, I'm not going to make it. And then he went on to get 5 Oscars.
Sir Sir Anthony Hopkins, the gem that he is, the iconic presence.
hmm I know, bless his heart. I can't even imagine. I
Can't
can't
even
even
imagine.
imagine.
But also, I mean, okay, I Googled Sir Anthony Hopkins because I was gonna pull up to double check like his theater in
Mhm.
England versus his Hollywood. And you know how there's like people also ask these questions on Google? Why is Anthony Hopkins called Sir? Bitch, if you don't know the answer to that question,
That's a very generic question and like a very generic answer. Like there is only one.
there's only one. Yeah, calm down.
Bless it. Jodie Foster actually tried to buy the rights to this film before it came out to produce it. But turns out she was too late because Gene Hackman had already bought the rights. And he thought he was gonna either play Jack Crawford or Hannibal Lecter, and then realized how dark the material was and decided not to.
Yeah, listen, the the roles that Anthony Hopkins played on the West End stage prior to 1990 are bigger than any of us could ever dream to be.
Well, he was trying to get in
Like,
Hollywood, not on the West End.
no, but I'm saying this man played Antony in Antony and Cleopatra, Lear in King Lear, Macbeth in Macbeth. I understand that Hollywood's a different world, but like how dare he ever once question who he is?
I
How
know. I know. Um, the house that they shot the scenes with Buffalo Bill in,
yeah,
when he found out where it was, he was like, this seems familiar because it's the hometown he's from is where they filmed it. And he's like, that area sounds familiar. It turns out the house next door was his ex-girlfriend from high school's house that they filmed next to.
that's amazing.
Um, it because
Also,
obviously, yes.
um, I did really appreciate that Buffalo Bill was in Ohio because the only thing Ohio is good for is serial killers.
In the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's nothing wrong with Ohio,
Everything wrong.
except the snow and the rain. I really like Drew Carey. I really like to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
are those lyrics?
They're from a Bowling for Soup song.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, listen, I understand the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is great. I love both the Cincinnati and the Columbus Zoos, and MGK is from Cleveland. Like I have exceptions, but I'm pretty confident that one of the first things I ever said to Dan when we started having conversations past just generic coworkers was I literally sat on the floor of the office at St. Andrews and said, please, I was like, I will sit here until you can tell me one good thing that came out of Ohio.
Ohio's for lovers.
Yeah, that song's not a positive song either.
Sounds nice if you don't think about it. If you don't know the rest of the
If you
lyrics,
don't
it
know the
sounds
rest of the
nice.
lyrics, it sounds beautiful, but we're cutting wrists and blacking eyes. so we can sleep alone
My
tonight.
love is a fire. It's all's well. Ohio's great. We love
Because it
you.
kills. Because you kill me. You know you do. You kill me well.
I hope all of our listeners are from Ohio. We love it there. Um, they recouped their budget in the first week of this movie coming out. Like week one, the
Done.
budget was recouped.
Done.
Um, so when Anthony Hopkins' agent sent him his script, he just said, "I'm sending you the script for The Silence of the Lambs." He assumed it was a children's movie.
Well, to be fair, he grew up in England, where children's stories were written by Roald Dahl, the man who
Mm,
also,
yeah,
was an anti-Semite and wrote two of the creepiest short stories in the history of the world. Because
yeah, that's true.
The Landlady and Lamb to the Slaughter are both horrifying.
Yeah. I don't think he had read this. I think he had just heard the title of it by the time he had
But that's what I'm
decided.
saying. That's what I'm saying. To
Yeah,
his credit, he grew up in a
right,
place where Roald Dahl wrote both the BFG and
right,
Lamb to the Slaughter. So like,
right.
cool.
Um, the moth cocoon was made of a Tootsie Roll and gummy bears, so it was edible. It was fine. It was in the
That's good.
person.
That's good.
Um,
But that also
I
makes
didn't
me
realize. Oh, go ahead.
it also makes me terrified to eat Tootsie Rolls ever again because now I'm just gonna be picturing them as dead moths.
Yeah, wow, can't help with that.
Still gonna do it.
Um,
Anyway.
I didn't realize that the moth on the posters is actually a Salvador Dali painting.
That I did know actually.
I did not know that. We talked about that. John Douglas worked very closely with Scott Glenn on creating Jack Crawford for this role, which we know he's based off John Douglas, so I guess it's good he's involved in the film now.
Yeah.
Um, when Ted Levine went in for his audition, I think it was Brooke Smith who said he had like such an insanely good audition. She's like, "What did you do? How did you get in the mindset?" And he was just like, "I was so nervous. I drank a lot of coffee." And then just I was like, that truly sounds like it must be
That
a good
is
time.
amazing. That is
Like I just get really nervous and then drink a lot of coffee and hope for the best. And I was like, I truly feel that in my soul every day. Um so Dino De Laurentiis, who was the Manhunter producer, actually owned the rights for this film and was meant to produce it. But but because Manhunter failed so hard, he was like, there's no use. It's gonna be terrible. And sold it or gave away the rights for free to Orion. Like he just basically gave them away. I think it was like a little bit, but like he didn't even care about how much he sold them for because he was like, it's gonna be a flop. And then
how
obviously it
much did he
wasn't.
regret that?
Well, he did end up getting brought back in for I don't know if it was I think it was for Hannibal that he got brought back in
Okay.
for. It may have been Red Dragon, but he was brought back in later. But he doesn't have the rights anymore because basically just gave them away.
Ooh.
Also during the same time period, something I didn't know, Anthony Hopkins and Martha Stewart were dating. However, they ended their relationship because Martha Stewart could not look past how he was portraying Hannibal.
The weird thing is, I fully knew that story.
I had never heard that. I did not even a little bit know that.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that I have read things where Martha said that she felt bad, but she could not stop seeing him as Hannibal Lecter. So she had to end things.
Yeah. Um, Richard Ramirez was a big fan of this movie,
Of course he was,
obviously.
obviously.
Um, this is also the only horror film to win an Academy Award at least since 2023, but I don't think another one's won since. Um,
Um, would you not categorize Parasite?
did it win an Academy Award?
Yeah,
Then yeah, Parasite was the
because Parasite
Parasite was
won.
horror.
Yeah, Parasite won the Best Picture in 2020.
Oh, well, then this list was wrong. They said as of 2023, it was not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are people not categorizing Parasite as horror? Because Parasite won in
I think so. What else would you categorize it as?
I
Oh, because it took foreign language film. It didn't take, it was a foreign language
no, it
film.
was a foreign language film, but it won Best Picture, not Best Foreign Picture.
But I think that's what they categorized it as.
Because it's stupid. Because
not a horror.
But it's a horror crime film.
But it's a horror, yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I remember I was in Malaysia
Mhm.
during the Oscars of that time. I was sitting at a restaurant in Malaysia, and I literally remember having an absolute breakdown when the results came in and Bong Joon-ho won.
Yeah.
And I was like, I lost my shit. I cried so hard. I was because I get really emotional about things like that. But yeah, no, Parasite is a horror movie, and it won it won Best Picture in 2020. So that is a false statistic, but that's still a good almost 20 years of no other horror film winning. So
Yeah. They're also, I don't know. But yeah, I guess for Best Picture, because it says The Exorcist, Jaws, Sixth Sense, Black Swan, and Get Out were also all nominated and didn't win. And my last fact I have for you is that John Carpenter didn't like that this was mostly Clarice's point of view because it didn't have enough of the slasher and gore elements.
No shit.
That's surprise.
That's in fact why we but John, my love, my dear friend John, that is exactly why we love it.
Right. This is not the movies you create, John.
No, listen,
this is a different film.
Listen, Hannibal Lecter is never gonna come for Michael Myers' spot. He's not coming for it.
They're two different people, and that is a-okay with everyone. Yeah, so that is my wrap up of Silence of the Lambs. Do you have any last minute thoughts about it? Anything we didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I feel like a ton of people have seen this film. We've talked about most of these characters before. I'm sure they'll come up again in the DNA Awards, but for now, we're moving on to season 1 of Clarice. And then we're going to be watching, which you can, in case you missed last week or didn't care about our series wrap up, you can, which you should, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You can buy it on Amazon or Apple TV for streaming. You can buy it for $13.99 or something on Amazon as a DVD. It's 2-day shipping. You can look at renting it at your local library. It is not streaming for free anywhere. Those are your options.
Yes.
And then after that, we will watch Hannibal.
Yeah.
We'll stop. And that is on Pluto and Tubi. And I think it's also on Prime Video free. It's on a few different streaming services. Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll get into Clarice. We'll talk a little bit more about her. Maybe I'll find one of the books and read them at some point in time and know a little bit more about the backstory of what actually goes on that we didn't get a chance to talk about today. And then we will also, of course, have our Sci-Fi Sundays in the midst of that. Yeah. So if you want to talk to us about any of these things, no spoilers for Clarice or Hannibal, but otherwise we have had a whole universe you are welcome to talk to us about. You can email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can find me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we'll see you on Sunday for Sci-Fi Sunday.
Bye.